What would you do if you found out you had a twin you never knew existed? Follow Abigail as her world turns upside down after a simple message changes everything. Abigail's life had always moved in a straight line. Home. Work. Church. Repeat. She was 34, single, and lived in a modest one-bedroom flat above a loud tailor's shop in Enugu. She worked as a secretary at the Ministry of Housing. Her days were predictable. She typed reports that no one really read, reported to her boss, and caught the same dusty bus home every evening. Her phone barely rang, except for the occasional calls from Mama. Life was quiet, and sometimes lonely, but it was hers. Then one Sunday morning, her mother collapsed in the bathroom. Abigail had been visiting for the weekend and found her lying face down on the wet tiles. The panic that flooded her chest was something she'd never forget. She screamed for help, flagged down a passing caker, and rushed her to the emergency ward. The doctors later said it was her kidneys. They were failing. But it wasn't just that, it was a rare, inherited condition, something that might affect family members. The doctor had looked at Abigail gently and asked, "Are you her only child?" Abigail nodded. "Yes, just me." As the search for a donor began, the lead doctor recommended a family genetic screening to check for both treatment compatibility and to understand Abigail's own risk. They explained that due to the hereditary nature of the illness, it was important to trace close blood relatives. "You might be a match," the doctor said, "but we need to do a full genetic workup to be sure." Abigail agreed without thinking. She wanted to help her mother. She wanted answers. She did the test the next day. A week later, she sat in front of the doctor again, expecting to hear whether she was a suitable kidney donor. But the doctor's expression was different. He looked confused. "I don't want to alarm you," he said slowly, but something unusual came up. "Genetically, you're not a close match at all." Abigail blinked. "I don't understand." He cleared his throat. "What I mean is, medically, this woman can't be your biological mother. The results suggest no direct link." "I'm very sorry." "Is there a chance you were adopted?" "Adopted?" Her ears buzzed. Her stomach turned. "No. I mean, she's my mother," Abigail whispered. "She raised me." He nodded carefully. "That might still be true emotionally. But biologically? It doesn't appear so." That night, Abigail didn't eat. She sat on the tiled floor of her kitchen, holding her knees, her mind spinning in circles. She didn't know what to believe. When she confronted her mother the next morning, she only got half-spoken words and shaking lips. "Some things are better left buried," Mama said weakly, refusing to meet her eyes. But Abigail couldn't bury this. So when the hospital offered to release her DNA to a global matching database to trace any living blood relatives, she signed the paper. Her hand shook, but her heart was steady. She had to know. 2 months passed. She tried to forget. Until one evening, an email popped into her inbox. Subject read, "Immediate family match found, possible twin." She opened it. There it was. Name, Emily Okoro. Age, 34. Birth date, March 8. Same day. Same year. She stared at the attached picture and felt the air leave her lungs. The woman looked like her. Not just a little. Not in a "you both have the same eyes" way. It was like looking at herself. Another version. A hidden half. Her hands trembled. The phone fell. Her breath caught in her throat. How could this be? That night, Abigail didn't sleep. For the first time in her life, she felt like a stranger to her own story. And somewhere out there was a sister. Abigail didn't know how long she had been standing by the window. The email still glowed on her phone screen. Close family match found, possible twin. Her legs felt weak, like someone had pulled the ground from under her. She sat down on the edge of her bed, holding the phone with both hands as if it might shatter. The name stared back at her. Emily Okoro. Same birth date. Same blood group. Same height. And that face, dear God, that face. She didn't cry, not yet. She just sat there, frozen, as her mind spiraled. How could a whole person, a whole twin, exist somewhere in the world, and she never knew? What else had been hidden from her? Her fingers trembled as she clicked the request contact form attached to the profile. Her chest was tight. Every breath felt too loud. She started to type, "Hello. My name is Abigail Nwok. I received a DNA match notification that you might be my twin. I don't know how to explain how I feel. I just want to understand. If you're open to it, please reach out." She read it 3 times. She deleted it. Rewrote it again, shorter this time. "Hi. I got a match notification. I think we might be related. Please let me know if you'd like to talk." Her heart thudded as she hit send. Then she waited. And waited. The next hour was unbearable. She kept refreshing her email, checking her phone screen every few minutes. When it finally buzzed, she jumped. It was a reminder from her bank app. Not Emily. Abigail's heart sank. The sun began to set. She stood by the window and watched the orange light spill over the rusted rooftops. Her neighbor's baby cried next door. The tailor downstairs started playing an old high life song on the radio. Life outside continued, normal, untouched. But Abigail's world had stopped. She barely slept that night. She would doze off, then wake up to check her phone. Nothing. No response. She tried not to panic, tried to be reasonable. Maybe she hadn't seen it yet. Maybe she's processing it too. But as morning came, a deeper fear began to crawl into her chest. What if Emily didn't want to know her? By the 3rd day, Abigail stopped checking the screen every 5 minutes. She left her phone on the table and paced the room instead. Her mind filled the silence with every possible outcome. What if this was all a mistake? What if she doesn't care? What if she's angry? What if she doesn't even know I exist? She stopped going to work. She couldn't focus. Couldn't eat. She moved through the days like a ghost. The only thing alive in her was that burning question. Who is Emily? And why hasn't she replied? It had been 6 days. 6 long, dragging days since Abigail sent the message. Every morning, she'd wake with hope rising in her chest, only for it to fall flat again by night. By the 4th day, she had stopped expecting. But the ache didn't stop. It just buried itself deeper. She tried to distract herself, scrubbing the floor, heating up soup she didn't eat, even calling her close classmate in university days in soccer just to hear another voice. But her mind never left Emily. Each night she asked herself, why wouldn't she respond? Was it fear? Anger? Shame? Or did she simply not care? Then came the 7th night. It was past midnight. Rain tapped gently on the window panes. Abigail sat on the floor, her back against the couch, phone in hand but screen dark. She had fallen asleep without realizing, her head leaning back, mouth slightly open from exhaustion. Buzz. Her eyes snapped open. Buzz. Again. She sat up fast, blinking. One new message. Her thumb shook as she unlocked her phone. From Emily Okoro. Subject, I've been trying to find the right words. Abigail's heart pounded so loudly she could hear it in her ears. Hi Abigail, it began. I'm sorry for the delay. I've been staring at your message for days, not knowing how to respond. The truth is, I didn't think anyone would ever find me. Or that I would find anyone like you. I've always known something was missing. I was adopted as a baby. My parents told me when I turned 18. But they didn't know anything about my birth family. I never pushed too hard. I thought maybe I had been abandoned, or that someone had died. But your message, your name, your face, I cried. I'm still crying. I don't know how this happened. But yes, I think we are sisters. Maybe more than that. I'd like to talk, if you're ready. Tears streamed down Abigail's face. She held the phone to her chest and sobbed. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't alone. There was someone out there who had been walking around with the same unanswered questions. The same ache. Someone who looked like her. Felt like her. Someone who had been searching, too. She opened her laptop with trembling fingers and wrote back immediately. Yes, Emily. I want to talk. I've been waiting my whole life. As she hit send, she felt it the moment her story began to shift. Not back to what it was, but forward into something unknown. Scary and beautiful. A story written in two voices, finally beginning to speak as one. They chose to meet halfway, in a small guest house in a suburb, not far from the bridge that linked both their worlds. Abigail arrived first. She wore a soft blue dress and flat sandals. Her palms were wet with sweat. She kept checking the mirror, brushing invisible dust from her dress, then sitting, then standing again. Her heart was pounding in a strange, fast rhythm, like a talking drum played by nervous fingers. Then came a soft knock at the door. Abigail froze. The door creaked open, and there she was. Emily. For a moment, they both just stared. It was like looking at a reflection, but not quite. Abigail was slightly taller, Emily's skin a shade lighter. Abigail wore her hair in neat braids, Emily in a relaxed puff. But the eyes were the same. Wide. Soft. Searching. Neither of them spoke. Then, slowly, Emily stepped forward. Abigail met her halfway. And just like that, they hugged. It wasn't loud or dramatic. No tears just yet. Just a long, tight, quiet embrace. Two hearts beating against each other for the first time. When they finally pulled apart, they sat across from each other on the bed. They couldn't stop staring, as if trying to memorize every line on each other's faces. You look like me, Emily said first, her voice soft, a bit shaky. You too, Abigail replied, smiling, but her throat tight with emotion. They talked for hours. Emily had grown up in Abuja, adopted by a wealthy couple who couldn't have children. Her life had been different, international schools, dance classes, travel. But even with all the comfort, she said she had always felt misplaced. I used to imagine I had a sister, she said. I even wrote letters to her in a secret notebook. Abigail laughed through her tears. I used to talk to myself in the mirror and pretend someone else was listening. It was strange. How different their lives had been, yet how deeply connected they felt. Emily hated spicy food, Abigail couldn't eat without pepper. Emily was bubbly and quick to laugh, Abigail quiet and observant. But somehow, it all fit. Like puzzle pieces scattered at birth, finally snapped into place. As night fell, silence settled between them again. What do you think happened? Abigail asked, her voice barely a whisper. Emily looked down. I don't know. But I think we're about to find out. They both agreed to go see Abigail's mom. They believe she is the only one that has answers to their questions. The ride to Augusta was quiet, but heavy. Abigail and Emily sat side by side in the bus, the hum of the engine filling the silence between them. Emily looked calm on the outside, neatly dressed in a beige blouse and fitted jeans, her phone clasped tightly in her hand, but Abigail could see the tension in her jaw. She was used to comfort, not dusty roads and crowded buses. But she didn't complain. At the hospital, the walls smelled of antiseptic and old air. The nurses pointed them to the private ward Mama was moved into a few days earlier. Abigail's stomach turned with every step. Emily slowed her pace slightly, letting Abigail lead. They stepped into the room quietly. Mama was awake, sitting up in bed, her eyes half closed as if lost in thought. Her head turned slowly when she heard the door open. A warm, weak smile touched her lips until she saw Emily. Her smile vanished. Her eyes fixed on the young woman standing behind Abigail. The silence stretched. "Mama," Abigail said softly. Still, Mama stared at Emily, confusion slowly mixing with fear. "Who is she?" Mama asked, voice faint but sharp. Abigail swallowed. "She's my twin." Mama's eyes widened. Her hand shot up to her chest. "Twin?" Emily stepped forward carefully. "My name is Emily. I believe I was taken from the same place Abigail came from." Mama blinked. "Once. Twice." Her lips parted as if to deny it, but the truth was already breaking through the cracks. "I don't understand," she said hoarsely. "They told us only one survived." Abigail stepped closer. "You told me you were my mother. That I was your only child." Mama lowered her gaze. "I didn't give birth to you. I wanted to. I prayed for a child for years. And then, he came back from Owerri with you. Said a woman died in childbirth. Said the baby had no family. They said your twin didn't make it." She turned her head, eyes now brimming with tears. "I believed him. I needed to." "You didn't ask questions," Abigail whispered. "I was afraid," Mama said. "Afraid of the truth. Afraid if I knew more, I'd lose you." Emily stood still, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "I grew up with questions too. I never knew who I was. I was adopted, yes, but I always felt misplaced." The three women stood in that hospital room, the truth rising slowly like smoke from an old fire. "I loved you like my own, Abigail," Mama said, now shaking. "I still do." Abigail turned away, her throat tightening. "I didn't come here to hate you," she finally said. "I came for the truth." That evening, Abigail and Emily sat on a bench beneath the mango tree just outside the hospital building. The sun was setting behind the rooftops, casting the courtyard in golden light. "I think I needed to hear her say it," Abigail said. "I know," Emily replied. "We all needed that." They sat in silence, shoulder to shoulder, no longer strangers, just two sisters finding their way through a broken history. 3 months had passed. The first few weeks after the truth unraveled were shaky. Abigail felt like she was living between two worlds, her old life built on half-truths, and her new life still finding its shape. But the one thing that gave her steadiness was Emily. From the moment they left Augusta, Emily stepped in, quietly, without needing to be asked. She paid off Mama's hospital debt, moved her to a cleaner, better-equipped facility in Port Harcourt, and called in favors from her adoptive father's connections to get her on a national kidney transplant list. Abigail had been stunned at first. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked. Emily only said, "Because she raised you. And you're my sister." Abigail visited Mama every weekend. Sometimes, they sat in silence. Other times, they talked about cooking, about childhood memories. Even laughed. The anger in Abigail didn't vanish overnight, but it softened. One day, while watching Mama sleep, Abigail whispered, You could have abandoned me, but you didn't. Her voice cracked, and tears slipped down her cheeks. You didn't tell me the truth, but you loved me in your own way. You were scared. And maybe you were wrong. But you were also human. That day, something broke inside her. Not in a painful way, but in the way chains break. The sisters were together often now. Sometimes planning Mama's care, sometimes just sitting at home with food and gist, watching old Nollywood films and teasing each other over who had the better taste in clothes. Emily's connections helped get Mama matched with a potential donor, a retired teacher from Jos, who, after reading their story in a community newsletter, offered to be tested. He was a match. Not perfect, but close enough for the transplant team to move forward. Hope bloomed. Emily and Abigail sat on the hospital lawn one evening, watching the nurses bustle around inside. I used to think family was just people who shared blood, Abigail said. But I've learned it's also about who stands with you, when you're tired, when you're hurting, and when your whole life doesn't make sense. Emily smiled. Well, you're stuck with me now. Whether you like it or not. Abigail laughed and leaned her head on Emily's shoulder. I do like it, she said. I really do. Moral of the story, family is not only who gives you life, but who gives you love even when the truth is buried. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it lets you build a better future. Sometimes, the people we are meant to find us when we are finally ready to be found. If this story touched you, subscribe and follow for more deeply human African folktales, where truth, love, and resilience always have the final word. Thank you for staying with us to the end. See you next time.